All right, I'm going to share my screen with all of you, and you should be seeing the screen that says West Liberty University. And as I was saying, this is our getting started with Google Forms. So if you are brand new to Google Forms, wanting to learn a little bit more about Google Forms, or you have used it in the past and you just want a little bit of a refresher, this course is for you. A little bit of who we are. My name is Amanda Alford, and I am joined by Corey Bauer. Corey is going to be moderating today. So anytime you have a question, if you want to drop that in the chat, Corey will be here to answer. Corey and I are both currently the instructional designers here at West Liberty University, and we are both remote. So if you would like to try to find us, you probably will need to email us because we are both in Indiana. We are also both former ed tech coaches, so we both have been instructional coaches in technology design. I'm a former secondary science teacher. Corey is a former secondary computer science and social studies teacher, and we are both certified Google trainers. So what that means is we have gone through multiple exams, studying, and trainings to be able to be certified Google trainers. We have been certified Google trainers since 2017. So for quite a while, we have given Google trainings both in person and virtually all over at many different conferences throughout the states. So we definitely can answer any type of Google question that you have. So feel free throughout this session, if you have a question, completely feel free to drop it in the chat, and Corey will either answer it or she'll stop me and I will go back and show it to you again. So what this is how this session will work. This is very much an interactive session. So this can be done in another tab on your computer, if you're on a laptop, a desktop, or even a mobile device like an iPad or a phone. You will need to be logged into your Google account. So your West Liberty account, or if you want to do it into a personal Google account, that's fine as well, but you will need to be signed into that Google account. And again, ask any questions or comments in the chat. Corey and I both can answer anything. I am very much willing to stop and re-show you any step that you need. But this is also going to be very much I show you and then I give you time to do it. So the goal is for you to walk away in this training session at the end having a completed Google form that you can use specifically for whatever position you hold here at the university. We do have some learning objectives for you. Our goal for you is to be able to create and set up a brand new Google form from scratch, and for you to feel fairly confident in doing that after this session. We want you to gain some proficiency in crafting various types of questions. So not just creating true or false multiple choice questions, but we are going to have you gain some proficiency in multiple types of questions. We're going to have you personalize Google Forms by applying different themes and fonts, and then understanding how to modify and optimize the form settings to suit your specific needs and preferences, again, depending on what you do at the university. So the first thing that we're going to do is kind of gauge and rate your experience with Google Forms. So in the chat, if you want to open up the chat, I feel that Golden Girls are the best way to judge any type of proficiency. I mean, who doesn't love some Betty White? So in the chat, how you feel right now with your experience with Google Forms. You can drop a 1 if you're like, I don't know what to do, a 2 if you're feeling like, oh my goodness, a 3 if you're a little bit excited, a 4 if you just think it's completely disgusting, a 5 if you're super excited, or a 6 if you were just feeling full on Betty White. So go ahead and put that in. How's our chats? A 1, Corey, of course you're a 6. So kind of just that feeling of I don't know what to do. A 3, a little bit excited. Okay. So again, it's okay. the point of this is no matter where you feel, is hopefully by the end, you may not feel a 5 or a 6, but maybe you're feeling a little bit excited. My goal is for you not to be doing a 1 or a 4. Okay, that is the goal, is for you not to be a 1 or a 4 or even a 2, but definitely not a 4. So what is Google Forms? Google Forms is a free tool from Google that allows you to do the following. You can create forms, surveys, quizzes, and other various forms of that. You can share the forms with others. It allows others to complete forms online. It allows you to collect responses in a spreadsheet, and it allows you to provide helpful summaries of the collected data with different charts and graphs. And so I'm going to show you how to use all of these. Specifically, why would you at West Liberty University need to use a Google form? Some different options that I tried to make sure are relevant specifically to what you would do possibly at the university is have an analytical rubric, collect data for possibly clubs, have signing up for office hours, signing up for class presentations, event registrations, surveys. Other possible things would be onboarding or outboarding if you're an administrative assistant, just really collecting that data and having a quick and easy way of collecting data or an evaluation, depending on what, again, you do at the university. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I need you to do is go to Google. And again, you need to be signed in with your Google account. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if you go to Google, and this doesn't matter if you're in Chrome or Firefox or Safari, whatever browser you're using, if you go to Google, make sure that you're signed in. So it shouldn't say sign in right here. It should have your picture and your icon. So what you will do is you go to this right next to your picture. This is called, some people call it the app launcher. Some people call it the waffle. Some people just call it the 9 circles. It's whatever you call it. But you go right up here to your image, click on this, and you should see an icon that says forms, and it's a purple icon. Now, this may not be right here in this spot. So please know that depending on how often you use the Google App Launcher, it may be down here or somewhere over around, but look for the purple icon that says forms, and you will click on that and it will open a new Google form. And so when you click on this, you can click on different templates, but for this session, we're going to click blank. And it should look like this. So I am going to give you just a few seconds to go in and log into your Google account, find the app launcher, and then click on Google Forms, and then click on blank. And this should be your landing page, just this purple and purplish toned where it says Untitled Form. So I am going to give you just a few moments to get to this point because I don't want to rush anyone. So I'm going to give you a few moments. I'm going to take a drink of water before I lose my voice, and then we will move on. All right. So now, going back here. So now what we're going to do is, what do you do once you've created a new Google form? So again, you should be right here. And what I did was I went to Google, I signed into my account. Up by my image, I chose the app launcher, the waffle, whatever it is you call it, those 9 circles. I clicked and I found a new Google form and created a blank one. And this is where I've landed. So a couple of things. The very first thing that's always important is giving this a title. So you want to give it a title, and I'm just going to call it example. If you would like to just mimic what I'm doing and call it an example, you're more than welcome to. You can call it whatever you want. You don't have to share this with me at the end, so you can call it whatever you would like. And then click somewhere else. Now, if you notice, it says example here, but it did not change right here in the upper left-hand corner. What you need to do is you also need to change the title up here in the upper left-hand corner, because when you go to Google Drive, it's just going to say untitled form, and it's going to be difficult for you to find it in your Google Drive. So a quick and easy trick is if you give a title right here, if I just click on this, it will automatically default to whatever the title is I wrote. So I wrote example here. I just simply clicked on it. It's like, is this what you want to call it? I say yes. And now my title in the upper left-hand corner matches my title right here, which is what I wanted. So again, always make sure that you title it first. This is very important because, like I said, if not, it will just say untitled, and then you have to go through all the untitles that you've ever created and remember what date you created it on, and that can just become messy. Another thing that you can do is right here it says form description. So depending on what this is, you can give it a brief description. So you can put please fill out. You don't have to give it a description, but again, depending on, are you doing signing up for class hours or office hours? Are you creating a survey? So if there's specific data you would like them to fill out, like please fill this out by such and such date, you can add that description right here. This is totally optional. You also have the features to make it bold, italics, underline, if you need to add a link, numbered, bulleted, or removing the font. But other than that, you really don't have to put a whole lot. The next thing you want to do is, as you can see, Google automatically gives you your first question. So right here, it says untitled question. And if I just click on it, so what I did was, I just clicked and this all appeared. What it does is here you can start putting in your first piece of information. Now, by default, every question is going to be multiple choice. So no matter how many questions you answer, by default, everything is multiple choice. And I will show you how to change those here in just a few moments. So if you want to put a question, and so my first question is, what is your favorite season? I'm keeping all of my questions and information very generic. That way you can either copy my questions or you can put in what is ever specific to your department and your position. And then down here, I have the option to put in my answers. So spring, summer, fall, and winter. And if you notice, all I'm doing is clicking right here where it says add option or add other, and it gives me another option. Now, if I'm like, oh no, I didn't want to add that many, I just go over here to the X where it says remove, and then I can remove it. Now, if you really want to get fancy, which we're not going to dive into very much here, but if you really wanted to get fancy, you could add an image. So if you are a visual learner, or if you know that your audience needs visual cues, you could add an image. So if you really wanted to add an image to whatever it is, you just click here and choose however you would like to upload your image. But for this purposes, since we are just getting started, we're going to keep it pretty easy. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here where it says required, and I'm going to toggle that on. That means that every participant who fills out my Google form is required to answer this question before they hit submit. Now, do you have to have them required? Absolutely not. But that's what that means. If this is toggled on and it's purple, that means your participants have to answer this or they cannot submit. So I know I just gave you quite a bit of steps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you your chance. So here in just a minute, I'm going to do a countdown timer. And I'm going to have you complete the steps that I just showed you. So what I would like for you to do is create a new Google form, add a title, make sure it's also titled up at the top where you will see it in Google Drive. Complete your first question, which is multiple choice. If you would like to copy my question, you're more than welcome to, and then add a couple of answer choices just so you can practice doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and click my timer. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. And then at the end of the 3 minutes, we'll see what questions you have, and then we'll move on. All right, we are down to about our last 10 seconds. I just want to give you that warning so nobody is startled when it goes down. And stop. All right, so let me stop this. So I do want to pause and just ask. Feel free to drop it in the chat, or we're a small group. You can unmute. What questions do you have so far? Like, do you feel like this is going okay? Do you have any questions? Any difficulties? Anything like that? Thoughts, concerns, comments, complaints? Feel free if you want to unmute. If not, we'll move on to the next step. All right. Is everybody feeling fairly confident about what we did and moving on? All right, then let's move on to the next one. All right, our next is creating different types of questions. Multiple choice is great to an extent, but sometimes we just want to ask other questions that have nothing to do with multiple choice. So going back to my Google form, the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is add a new question. So to add the next question, what you do is you come over here to this toolbar on the right, and you can see I have about 6 different things that I can do. And what you want to do is click the circle with the plus sign. And if I toggle just over it, it says add question. So I click on that and I have another question. And as I said, multiple choice is default. Automatically, you're getting a multiple choice. But what if you don't want a multiple choice? So if I click right here on the down arrow or the caret, as some of them call it, and I click just once, here are the different options that I have for questions. So I am going to just briefly go over them. So short answer may be name, last name, first name, things like that. So a short answer is something that is maybe 1 to 2 sentences, or as simple as one word like first name, last name. A paragraph is you want them to write something over 2 sentences. So this may be an explain. This could be if you are a professor, what went well, what didn't go well, give me some suggestions. If you are an administrative assistant or a staff member, this could be, how can I change? What can I do to make improvements? Or it could be, what went well, what went wrong. Multiple choice, obviously, check boxes are kind of what you use to sign up for this. So check boxes are multiple choice, but I don't want just one answer. I want several answers. So I want to be able to sign up for multiple activities. Drop down is this right here. This is a drop down. So this is, I want to have multiple choices, but I don't want to fill up my multiple choice with spring, summer, fall, winter. File upload is where they upload something for you. So maybe you need a PDF from them. So this is where they would upload a file. Linear scale is on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 5. I'll show you that. Multiple choice grid is also where you can have, on Mondays, what's your answer? On Tuesdays, what's your answers? But it limits them to only one answer choice. So you may have, say we're doing the cafeteria and the menu, and you're trying to do a poll on what the staff would like or the faculty would like for a cookout. Multiple choices, all right, for bread, wheat, white, rye, buns, and they can only choose one, and you go through. Checkbox is where they can have first option, second option. You can have where they put in a date, and you can have where they put in a time. For this purpose, we're just going to choose short answer. Most of you will probably only choose 1 or 2. Most of you on the regular will use 1 or 2 of these options. I just wanted to tell you what they all are, because sometimes people are like, what's linear? Like, why would I even use that? So just a brief description. So again, this is short answer. So we're going with what's your favorite season. So explain why you chose this season. So now my short answer is, I just want 1 or 2 sentences. Explain why you chose this season. Again, I can make it bold if there's a word that I really want to stand out. So, when you try to tell somebody not to do something and they're like, oh, I didn't see the word not. You can highlight that. So I can highlight this, make it bold, make it italics, make it underline, like do everything but put lights on it to really make it stand out. So you do have that option. If I want to add a link, I can. And again, if I want to add an image. So one thing also is, if you really like this question, say you're like, this is the type of question I want. I don't want to go through all the steps of rebuilding this over and over. You can go down here and hit duplicate, and it will duplicate your question. That way you can just change. So if you're like, explain why you didn't. So there, I didn't have to write that question all over again. I just duplicated it and then wrote the word didn't, because I pretty much wanted the same question. I just didn't want to go through all the steps of creating it again. So we're going to add another question. And this time I'm going to do a drop down. So I'm going to create this. So I'm going to choose a drop down option. My question is going to be, what is your favorite sport? And then my options are going to be basketball, baseball, tennis, golf, and sleeping. Because sleeping should definitely be a sport. So then what will happen is when my students or my coworkers or community members or whoever you're building this Google form for, because this can also be sent out to people outside of West Liberty University, when they see that, the options will come in drop down form to where they can choose it, and I'm not taking all of this space. The last question that I'm going to show you how to build is a linear, just because a lot of times people understand all of the other ones. This is the one that they're like, what does that mean? So, rate how your day is going. And this one is horrible. I shouldn't have gotten out of bed. This is like fantastic. I got a raise. And I can choose even, up to 10, like on a scale of 1 to 10, just how good is this? And so if you want to see what this looks like, you can preview it. So up here, this little eye lets me preview my questions. So the way I'm building this isn't going to look like this to people who are filling it out. So I go to preview and, what's your favorite season? Explain why. What's your favorite sport? Here's my drop-down menu. And then how's your day? And then anywhere from in here, this lets you go ahead and see what it's going to look like before you send it out. So I'm going to go back here to edit because I'm still filling it out. All right, here we go. So yeah, this is what it would look like. All right, so we have gone through again different types of questions. I've added a couple of types of questions. The next thing I want to do is, I want to move my thing right here so I can see. And I'm going to move you over here. I'm going to get out of this and I'm going to go back here. The next thing I want to show you is the tools right over here. So there's more tools than just adding a question. So I can import questions. So if you have a Google form that one of your colleagues has, and you're like, I like those questions. I'd like to use some of those questions. I don't want to type all those questions. You can import those questions. So what you do is you click import. And again, it's the second one. So it looks like a document with an arrow going through it. Click import. I can choose whichever Google form I have to import those questions. So say I want to use this one. I'm going to click select. And what's going to happen is here's the types of questions that this particular Google form had. Now, I can choose just one, like name. Or if you're really feeling fancy, you can select all and take all of them, but you should probably talk to your colleague before you take all of their questions. But if you're like, you know what, name, import question, there it is. Now I just imported a question from either a Google form that I've already used and you just want to modify a little bit, or from a Google form that a colleague's been using. Another thing you can do is you can add another title and description. So if you want to block it off and have certain blocks of space, you can. If you're like, oh, I didn't want to hit that, you can hit delete. You can add an image. So if you would like to add an image to this, you can. And so I'm going to add this image. So then I just added an image here, and then I can ask which building on campus is this? And you can add an image again to whatever you need. I can also add a video. So if you have a YouTube video you would like to search or a URL, you can search that and add a video, or you can add by section. And what section means is, all right, you did the first part, Now you move on to the second part. So if you want to collect all of their information to begin with, so name, role, date, email, and then you don't want them to see the questions until you get to the next section. This is where you would add another title. So this is part 2. And then I would go about asking questions again. And then right here, this just lets them know that when they get through with this, they would move on to the next section after they've filled this out. Again, I know I've asked or I've showed you quite a bit of stuff. I'm going to give you time again to do this. So what I'm going to have you do is, and I have it written right here for you, that way you can see, and I do give you more time. So on the Google form, add 2 more questions. If you would like to completely copy mine, you're more than welcome to. Choose 2 different question types. Add an image to a question and a video. Again, the video, just to show you, is you would go here and I would add video, and you can even do, type it in, search, and you search for everything right here. So if you're like, oh, I want to add this one, the video is right here into the question. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. The last thing is also make sure your questions are required. So again, by doing this, I just went here. Come on. And I toggle this on to required. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do this. Again, you're more than welcome to copy everything that I did, and then we'll see what questions you have. We have about 20 seconds left. So again, just to give you a heads up of our time. All right. So from here, stop the timer. All right. So what questions do we have? Do we feel like we're doing okay? Do we have any questions? Anything that you've discovered? How are we feeling right now? Good. Okay. Good. Is there anything that you would like me to go back over that you're still unsure about? All right. So let's move on to the next. This part lets you get a little creative. Like, let's get a little crafty, because honestly, some of you may love this purple. I know that a couple people I work with would just keep everything purple, and that's fine. But maybe you just want to get a little bit creative and change it up to possibly the season, a holiday, a little bit more specific of what you are intending and what your target audience is. So to do this, if we scroll up to the top, up here at the top, you'll see that we have a couple of icons and we have a paint palette. And if I hover over the paint palette, it says customize theme. And when I click on that, I get this menu on the right side of my screen. Here, you get the ability to change a few things. So by default, everything's Roboto, and these are the sizes. But if you would like to change that, so if you would like to do, Oswald, and you can change it, and it will automatically change. Now, again, by default, you can go back to Roboto, but whatever you want to use, you can go through and change, this, however you want to do it. You can play around with it. And then what you can also do is, so I want to do this. I want to make it big to 24. I want to get this. I want to make this big to 18. Now, it does cap you at a certain font size, so you're not getting 72. So don't think that you can go too large, but you can play around with this a little bit. You have some say in what you choose. And so you can make it certain sizes. And if you want to make it bold or light or medium or however, you can change all of that. This is a pretty new feature. When we started using this, we just had one font and one size, and we just had to deal with it. But now we have the ability to change it up a little bit if we want. We can also change the color. So to change the theme, the header, and everything, click choose image. So right here again with the header, I clicked choose image. We can make a West Liberty University one. So if you really want to get fancy, you can contact Corey and I, and we can show you how to create some specialized West Liberty ones. But they give you quite a few options through Google. So you can go down through here and choose different, just variations. If you would like illustrations, this is where you can start choosing by theme and season. So like down here, we could choose some Halloween. We have some Halloween stuff going on because it is October right now. So I could choose this and then click insert. And now everything changes to this color pattern. So if you see under here, color, my main accents are now this color, and it pulled it from the image. So I can choose this. I can choose this, and as you see, my accent colors change. I can also change my background. Now, if you're like, I don't like that one, just click the X and choose again. So we can do birthday, food, party, whatever it is. So maybe you're making one for the sports team. So maybe you're making something for football or basketball or whatever. And it has other depending on what you like. And if you notice, some of them are graphics, but some of them have actual images. So like if I click on this one and click insert with the flowers and the butterfly, I have an actual photo. And again, I can choose all the colors down here are taken from my photo. And I can choose whatever colors I want to be more of my accent that pulls from that. Okay, so I have the color palettes that I can choose. I can choose more of the background if I want lighter. So I'm going to give you a few minutes. So we're going back to a few minutes of what we were doing, and it's your turn. Okay, so go through, and if you would like to change the fonts, if you would like to change the font styles, size, colors, play around with the images. The header pictures are always really fun, and you can play around with the color palette. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes, and then we'll see what questions you have. All right, we have about 30 seconds left. All right. How are we feeling on this one? Do we feel pretty good? Were we able to change some colors, change some fonts? Have we hit a stumbling block yet? Because before we move on to the next, I want to make sure that you feel at least pretty confident about what we've done so far. So if there's anything you'd like me to show you again, let me know. I'd be more than happy to cover that right now before we move on to the next. Doing all right? All right. So the next part is changing the settings. So changing the settings allows you to have a little bit more say in how they complete this Google form. So if we go to our Google form, okay, and I'm going to get rid of this. Settings is right up here at the top. So we have questions, responses, and settings. So I'm going to click on settings. And The first thing I want to point out is we don't want to really use Google Forms here at West Liberty University as a quiz. We want to build the quizzes in Sakai, only because it gets a little hairy if we make them quizzes and then students are like, do I do it in Sakai? Do I do it in Google Forms? So just as an overall consensus, we would like all quizzes to be made in Sakai. So going down here to responses, what you can choose, if again, I just click this little down arrow or the caret, is do I collect emails automatically? Now by default, no, you will not collect emails automatically. But if you would like them to be collected, you can. Send responders a copy of their response. Okay. Do you want somebody who filled it out to be able to see what they responded with? Do you want them to be allowed to go back and change their answers basically with editing? So if they're like, oh no, I think I'd like to be able to change my mind 2 minutes after I sent that, do you want them to be able to have that? Do you want it to only be West Liberty University and its trusted organizations? This means if you are sending something out into the community, so maybe you want to send something out into the city of Wheeling, you will have to uncheck this, because if you're doing fundraisers or working with alumni who, even though they are alumni of West Liberty University, they possibly have other outside organizational emails, you would need to toggle that off. Limit to 1 response. Do you want them to only be able to answer once, or do you want them to be able to fill this out 5 times? So if you would like them to only be limited to once, you can click this, and then they can only fill it out 1 time. If you are doing a presentation, do you want them to be able to show the progress, shuffle the answer questions? Do you want to have a different confirmation message? Like by default, it's your response has been recorded. But if you want to be able to be like, your response has been recorded, or thank you for your response, please fill out your pay stub, something of that notion, you can change what your confirmation message is. Review results summary, and disable autosave. This means that right now, if they were to lose internet power, their cat steps across it, they lose a tab, close a tab, whatever, things are automatically saved. If you disable that, that means they have to start completely over from scratch if they lose anything. Form defaults, again, do we collect verified? Or verified means we automatically collect whatever email they're using to fill this out, or they can put in, so say they're using their West Liberty account, but they want to use their personal account, that's what responder input means. And then default, make all questions required by default. So if you want them to answer every single one, and you don't want to try to remember to toggle that little switch every single time, you can click that. So that's what the settings means. These are really just your preferences. I just wanted to go through to let you know what they mean. So if you want to make sure that everybody's email is collected and you don't want them to have to remember, you click verify, and we will just collect whatever email they used. So this is really just your preference. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to switch a little bit. Because of time, I do want to be very cautious of time. So do we have any questions so far? Because I am paying attention to the time. Do we have any questions so far? All right. We're going to put this whole thing together then. And I'm not going to give you 12 minutes because of the time. I'm going to shorten it a little bit. But I'm going to have you right now create a Google form for whatever you need coming up for your job. So whatever position you're in, so maybe you're a faculty member, you want to create office hours. Maybe you're an administrative assistant and there's a fundraiser coming up, or maybe you need to collect some data about, anything from athletics to onboarding to offboarding, whatever you need. Think of something that you would use this particular tool for, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to build this Google form for whatever your position needs. And you can add whatever. So this is the opportunity that I'm going to give you to build. At any point, you can unmute and be like, wait a second, I don't remember how to do this. Even if you don't get it all built, this is a good starting point. So again, I'm going to give you some time to do this. And I am going to stop you with about 4 minutes left so I can show you how to collect the responses. So I'm just going to have the timer going. We're not going to go 12 minutes. Build whatever you need, and then we'll come back. Again, if you just want to unmute because we're a small group, you can do that as well. So we're putting the whole thing together, starting from scratch, title, questions, however you need for this job, this is what we're building. I'm going to have you all go about 1 more minute, and then I'm going to pause you just so I can show you the last couple of things. All right, I'm going to pause this right there just so I can show you the last couple of items. And that is, how do you see the data? Like, this is great, but if you're collecting this for data, how do you find it? And so to collect the data, once you have shared this out, and to share it, by the way, you just go up here to the send button. And if you would like to email it, you can. A lot of times what individuals do is they click this link icon, click shorten, and then copy, and they just send out the Google form link that way. And again, at any time you want to see, you just go up here to preview. But to see what your people have responded with, you go right here to responses. So right next to where we were in settings, click response. And obviously I have 0 responses because I haven't shared it with anybody. But if I click here where it says link to sheets, and if I hover over it, it says send responses to a spreadsheet. I click on this, and I'm going to click create a new spreadsheet. And then it says what my title is in my Google form, but in parentheses, it says responses. I click create. This automatically will timestamp because I did choose to have the emails given, and this will give me all of my responses as my Google form is being filled out. So this is where I would get this new spreadsheet, but then I can just easily go back and forth and see. And the timestamp is very specific, like down to the second of when they submitted it. So if somebody goes, I submitted that answer, I know I did, you can just open up the spreadsheet and be like, no, you didn't. Like, I don't have your answer right here, because it instantly collects the information. Email, and then you have the answer choices. All right. So last thing, real quick, if you want to do that, if you want to just play around with that to see what I did, again, I just went up here. I was in questions. I went to response, and it will say link and sheets. But once you have it, it will say view, and that's how you get your responses. So I'm being respectful of our time, and I know that we're about out. So any questions? Any questions that we have? All right. Do we feel fairly confident in being able to create a Google form? Again, I will go over anything that we need. All right. The last thing I want to share with you is where do you advance these tools? You can contact us at the Office of E-Learning. We will help you with step-by-step anything you need. As I said, Corey and I are certified Google trainers. We worked very hard and long to be able to get those titles, and we've been doing this since 2017. There will also be available trainings on our West Liberty Professional Development page as we continue to build that. And then we also have a link to the Google Workspace Learning Center, where you can go and get more specific Google trainings that way. All right. As always, if you need any help, submit a help ticket to the Office of E-Learning. Any feedback would be beneficial, and we will be sending out this video via email to you. So if you would like to share this with some of your colleagues and you're like, you know what, you would get some valuable knowledge out of this, you can share that. So I am going to stop the recording. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And if you do have any questions, feel free to stick around.